Welcome back to the podcast. Same storm, different ships. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking to my guests about how their general mental health has been and if they've been reaching out to people or if people have been reaching out to them since the start of COVID. My very first guest is Ray Bandman. He's a local Calgary musician, and we get into some really interesting topics here about mental health and in particular anxiety. So stick around and hear what we had to say.
Absolutely. A part of that adapting I've noticed too was just I've always enjoyed my life so much. Like I enjoy my life, but for the first time ever, it's just hating it so much because I was held back from doing what I had a passion for. Mm-hmm. And that weight affected me more than I thought. I thought it was just an anger thing, but it was clear after a while, it had actually turned into an anxiety thing. And more than just like that underlying depression of not doing what I loved with the people I love. But it was interesting. I started having some sporadic anxiety attacks as well, which I never had experienced before, and I didn't know how to handle, and I didn't know what was going on. So, in an effort to adapt to this new life, was also finding new ways to relax and just taking some time for myself and to chill. Because that I didn't really need that before, because no matter what I was doing, I was enjoying it, and I didn't have something holding me back so forcefully. So that was an interesting thing to tackle for sure.
Well, and yeah, I mean that's another topic, another hot topic right now is just mental health in general, and I personally have suffered from anxiety my entire life, since I was probably, 9 or 10 years old. Actually, my first experience with an anxiety attack was blacking out off the top riser in choir practice in a gymnasium in elementary school. Wow. And of course, back then, nobody talked about anxiety. I didn't even know what it was. I just knew I felt nervous, and then all of a sudden I was on the floor, and so I'm no stranger to anxiety, mm-hmm. and I'm not ashamed of it at all. I mean, it's something that affects a lot of people, and everyone experiences it a little different, but it's interesting that you never had that until music kind of got taken away from you.
Right. Yeah.
So that, mm-hmm. Maybe that was your release, that was your meditation, that was your Zen, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you take that away, and it can really affect people. And some people are just angry, some people are depressed, and mm-hmm. but I definitely think anxiety is something that is one of the most misunderstood of all the, I don't want to call it a mental illness, because you can have anxiety for a short while and you can, work through it. And some people never experience it like that again in their lives, right? Other people have chronic anxiety. Yeah. So it's one of those misunderstood things, and it can be quite scary for the first time. So tell me, like, your very first experience with an anxiety attack. What did it feel like, and what did you think was happening?
That was the thing, is I didn't know what was happening. Physically, my heart started pounding very fast. And then it just felt like the present moment, expanded, and I couldn't get out of it. And so it was pure desperation to get out of this moment. And I wasn't even doing anything. I was sitting at the kitchen table. I think I was having a meal or something like that. It wasn't anything extraordinary. That part's kind of caught me off guard too. Like, I've only had a few of these times, but it's when nothing crazy is going on.
There's no trigger that you can see.
Yeah. So it's just, for me, it was just a desperate need to get out of the moment, out of the now, whatever was happening. It felt like it had caught me,
Yeah.
and I started walking and running around, and I just didn't know what I could do to escape the feeling, because it was a feeling, it was a mental thing, but I'd never grappled with that kind of mental feeling before. So physically, I was trying to escape it.
Well, it can feel quite like it is a physical sensation that goes along with it. And again, everyone experiences it a little bit differently, right?
Yeah.
So how long did it last, and how long did it take you to get out of it?
It took the it was only maybe like, I don't know, it was 20 minutes of that intense feeling, and then it was a few days to get out of the funk of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it
do.
kind of affected me. Like just looking back on it kind of affects me still, but just going through it kind of brings it back a little bit. So it wasn't a very long attack, and I it came down to deep breathing because my heart was racing so fast. That kind of brought me out of it, and it wasn't an instant. It was just like a slow kind of ease out. But
Yeah. Were you alone at the time, or did somebody help calm you down?
there has been a time when my wife is around, and she's great for helping through something like that. Very understanding, and just basically whatever I need, which usually is just space, and she's able to do that instead of trying to. So I just find the world overwhelming just for that time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's incredible just to know that she's there, but also not something that's pushing on me from the outside too. So
Yeah. No, definitely. Everyone has, a totally different experience, and sometimes having someone there can be helpful. Other times it's actually can make it harder. So,
Yeah.
I know how that feels. I feel you there. It's kind of hard to stay positive, right?
Oh, big time. There's those moments where it's just kind of like, yeah, I don't really feel like talking. Like I'm just maybe even just feeling sorry for myself. Like to be full disclosure, sometimes
the pity
right?
party.
Yeah, having a little pity party. Sometimes like I have my daughter 50% of the time. So there were some times where she wasn't here, and my girlfriend was at work or she's in university. So maybe doing class, and I was by myself, and I'm all by myself and I don't want to talk to anybody. And then it's like, well, I could have just made a phone call.
Well, exactly, right? The phone works both ways, doesn't it?
Big time. Yeah.
So, on that note, if you could share one positive message with the world, let's assume the world is watching us right now, what would you say if you could have the whole world listening?
I think the biggest thing is just take the time right now when we have this downtime, and it feels like, oh, there's nothing I can do. I can't go see friends. Take the time to take care of your mental health, number one, and just be really open about it. And then also just take the time to hone stuff that you love to do. Find what your passion is in this time. And when you do, like it's just going to make you feel better overall. So that's what I found myself falling into eventually. And that was, I hope more people can do that, because mental health is the biggest, I think is probably, the numbers are probably a bigger killer than COVID-19 during this period. So let's, and reach out. Like you said, phone works both ways, and everybody, people appreciate a call, and people will pick up. They're at home.
Well, yeah, they're not out. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Is there huge rent to pay on a venue like that, right?
Just your home.
Yeah, just that. Just rent or mortgage or
Food.
Just have to put food on the table. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, with all this going on, how has your overall state of mind been? Throughout everything, you know, have you found it's changed at all from the very beginning to now, or are you still, you know, pretty much in the same frame of mind as you were when it first hit you?
Well, when the first kind of shutdown happened, it was probably a blessing for my mentality, because I've been like a 24/7 general manager for over 12 years.
Yeah.
So it was nice for the mental break, right? And I enjoyed some time to be creative and kind of figure out who I am again.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of that going on. So,
but now it's like, well, we get to do this again. So we'll see how the business side of trying to get this off the ground, and we'll ride through Christmas and New Year's, and really hope the vaccines take off fast, and then all of us can get back to work.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're feeling pretty anxious to get back to the real normal, not the new normal.
Yeah, because the hard part is it's great to work, but when there's nothing to do and you have to motivate people and there's no drive because you're just struggling to make it through the day. You know, people thrive on a little bit of responsibility. There's a little bit of pressure there in the moment. But when you come to work and it's just like standing around, it's hard to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's, you know, it's a lot like musicians are feeling right now. You go from playing to a crowd to literally just playing to your phone or your laptop.
Yeah.
You know, it's a
trying to keep positive.
Yeah.
Or if you have employees like me, keep the few engaged.
So, you know, you mentioned when you first kind of realized how big a deal this was going to be, you had a bit of a breakdown. How have you been since then? How's your state of mind been basically throughout this whole thing?
There's ebb and flow with everything, right? Good days and bad days. But in the springtime, because of the emergency teaching and I was working from home, there was a lot of, you prepare and you do, and then you're like, oh, I'm just going to go and do some gardening. And then because you couldn't go anywhere, I was like, oh, I guess I'll stain my deck. Oh, I guess I'll add wallpaper to this room, right? So you're doing all of these random tasks that you were going to continually put off and put off and put off.
Well, the feature wall behind me that you mentioned earlier, that was one of the projects that I did in the first month or two.
Why not, right? Why not?
Why not?
And I loved that I've been in my home for 2.5 years and I've known my neighbors, but because of COVID, we became friends over our like front yard drinks that we have when the sun is shining. We're like, hey. And now we're like, wow.
Well, that's really cool.
And 6 feet away, of course, but it's lovely that we now have each other's backs and we like bring each other some food here and there and just gab away on our lots because everyone's kind of staying put. So there's like, that was a huge blessing because of COVID, I am sure. And
yeah, you get to know your neighbors for sure when you're stuck at home, right?
Yeah, interesting thing about social media. I was able to follow somebody I knew back in high school, and just to track the life and the posts via posts, and you just don't know what people are going through. Like such a difficult.
Don't check in on them, right?
Exactly, and there's this person, they've had this nice life, and all of a sudden, a couple of years back, cancer hits the family, and somebody goes away, and now this old friend is on her own with her 2 kids, and no dad during the pandemic. And so I felt like a obligation to say, hey, you know, make sure you're good to yourself when you can. Be kind to yourself. I feel like people tend to be the hardest on themselves. You gotta love yourself. You have to, if you want to move forward.
Everyone has like their friends that they see, or I guess you could call them like your acquaintances, where you might see them at like a gig or like a party or at some event, and you say hi and you catch up, but you're not really like interested in the other person, and you're not actually kind of wondering how they're doing.
Yeah.
And they're not with you either, and that's fine, because you can't be friends with everyone, right?
No,
but
you don't have the time.
we have someone that just occasionally reaches out, and it could just be like sharing a video or a picture or like a GIF or a GIF, how the hell you say it, you know, like stuff like that it is important to just kind of maintain like a little bit of a back and forth with someone. Yeah. And you know, like some people totally disappear and they could just be busy, but some people you just know that they're just not gonna get in touch unless they sort of want something, or you know, or wanting to, I don't know, unless you actually bump into them in real. It's interesting how with COVID and all that, like people use the term bubble a lot, like you're in your bubble or they're not in your bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And like when I bumped into you on the street here, I just moved to Canyon Meadows, so
yeah, it's funny. We're 2 blocks away on a video call.
Yeah, you're like a 30-second drive, and we're having to do a video call. But anyway, it's like having moved to a new neighborhood, there's new connections that sort of form from that, and people sort of drop off, and then other people come back in, and like really good old friends that you used to talk to every day kind of disappear, right? And it's not like they don't care, but sometimes they just don't quite, I don't know, it's hard to say, right?
I think that everyone's dealing with this so differently. Some people are really afraid of the virus and don't want to get near anyone, and then there's other people who are, you know, having really serious financial problems. Some people are facing losing their houses. Some people are, you know, wondering like if they're going to have a job ever again. You know, so like, you know, in those situations, some people just don't want to reach out. You know, nobody wants to share bad news with other people, right? So, you know, I think,
that's a good point.
Yeah, I think, I try and give everyone kind of the benefit of the doubt that we're all struggling with something right now, and you know, if they reach out, great. If not, you know, hopefully when things go back to normal, you know, we'll resume contact. And